Today we're installing a multi-zone mini-split AC unit, and before I could install that, I needed to make a concrete pad for it to set on. After screeding everything flat with a 2x4, I let the concrete cure for a few days and then took it out of the mold. This DIY multi-zone mini-split unit from Mr. Cool is great. It can run up to 4 indoor air handlers. I'll be using 2, one in the living room and a second in the bedroom. And before I could install the living room unit, I needed to remove the window unit that was sticking through my living room wall. Then I could use the installation template that Mr. Cool provides and mount the bracket to some 2x4 studs behind the wall. You only need to drill one hole from the interior to the exterior of your home for each of these indoor units. I've got a stucco finish on the exterior of my home, so we had to cut through that, then run the flange that Mr. Cool provides through the wall. That way it was a clean look. I also used some 1/2-inch plywood to cover up the hole in the side of my wall where that old window unit air conditioner was. And eventually I'll do a stucco patch to blend all of that out. To prepare my indoor unit, I needed to bend my line set so that it could stick through that hole that we drilled through the exterior wall. I also used some insulating tape to make sure that everything was wrapped up tight. Each of these units come with a really long electrical cord, which is nice. You'll want to feed that through the wall, and your unit just clips right onto the template. After I installed the living room receiver successfully, I installed the air handler in the bedroom the exact same way. Well, almost the exact same way. I needed to make sure that this line set went out the right side of the receiver and through the exterior wall. And after that, we carefully bent those line sets 90 degrees down towards the condenser. Before I moved on, I installed the back covers of these line sets to make sure everything was going straight and square to the earth. Then I could pop off all my covers on this condenser and start hooking everything up. The line set comes in this big spool, and you'll have a little bit extra. That's what makes this whole unit DIY-able. Rather than having to cut your copper lines to fit and braze your connections in place, this Mr. Cool DIY unit provides these pre-charged line sets that are going to be a little bit longer than what you need. It's up to you to figure out what you want to do with that extra line set, and we'll be taking care of it later on in this video. But what it allows for is a completely DIY install where you don't have to have an HVAC service person come out and charge your unit with refrigerant. This saves you money and gives you more flexibility in your install. But for now, let's keep moving to the electrical portion of this project. I combined two 30-amp 110 breakers for this 220 service run out to the condenser. We ran all of our wires through the exterior mounted conduit and used this service switch. That way, if I ever have to do maintenance on the condenser, I can turn the power off at that switch knowing that I'll be safe. We also used some copper pipes to create a French drain for all the condensation that comes off of the air handlers. Eventually, I'd like for these to water plants, but for now, that water's gotta go somewhere, so we're taking care of it. And while we're mounting this to the side of the wall, if you're enjoying this video, make sure and check out my page on Facebook and YouTube, Modern Builds. We've got tons of DIYs and we're posting all the time. Make sure and follow and like. And here you can see how that French drain works. Of course, it's only ever gonna drip and we'll never have to deal with that much water at once. After that, we installed some threaded inserts into the concrete slab so that we could use bolts to mount the condenser to that slab. And finally, we can open up all of our valves and make sure that there were no leaks. Once we knew that there weren't, we could turn on our electrical switches and power up our unit. Right away, we cranked both of our units onto their coldest setting and the temperature dropped right away. We also double checked all of our connections to make sure that there were no leaks and hooked up a yellow jacket testing meter to find that we were getting the perfect temperature off of our coils. So with the seal of approval, I could move on to sealing up and soundproofing all of our connections with this joint sealing tape. And I took the time to cut down some fence posts into this cover for all of the excess line set that I talked about earlier on in this video. I just wanted to build something that could cover up those spools of line set so that this whole thing was presentable. This is part of the whole DIY process, which is figuring out simple, clever solutions to common problems. Overall, I love the way this project came out, and I'm really happy with the presentation. Like I mentioned, I added some simple garden beds, and I'll add some plants later on that those drains will eventually feed and water. The Mr. Cool smart thermostat is really convenient, and you can program your units directly from their smartphone app anytime, anywhere. So thanks a ton for watching. I hope this video helped, and we'll see you next time on Modern Builds. Bye, everybody.